Welcome back to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Andrew Musgrove here for the third time today. You people must have done something right in a previous life. We're here now to talk about Eddie Howe's pre-match press conference. Yes, it's Marseille in the Champions League. Make sure you check out the match preview with John Gibson. But we're going to talk about what Eddie Howe had to say to the media down at the Velodrome in Marseille. Our chief sports writer, Ryder, has travelled from Tyneside to France, and he was there to ask Eddie Howe questions ahead of this Champions League clash. He also took in training with the players, 15 minutes open training on the pitch at the Velodrome. Good chance for them to get used to the stadium and those kind of really intimidating terraces. Of course, the stands were empty this evening as they trained, but it still gives them a little bit of a taste of what's to come. So what we're going to do is we're going to document Lee's journey to Marseille, and then we're going to play you the full unedited version of Eddie Howe's press conference and everything he had to say. Then we're going to see some of the training from the players on the pitch. Then you'll see me speak to Lee from the stadium, where he shares his key takeaways from Eddie Howe's pre-match press conference ahead of that really important clash with Marseille in the Champions League. So put the kettle on, make a brew, and enjoy.
Well, we're on our way to Marseille here. Connection in Paris and Newcastle United will train at the Velodrome tonight after Eddie Howe holds his press conference. And Newcastle heading to the south of France on a real high after the weekend win over Manchester City. Fantastic performance, wasn't it? And one that really did get Newcastle sort of back to the team we all know and love. And I think that's really important at this stage of the season. I think you look at the home form, there's been absolutely no problems with it. They've won 6 on the trot at home. It's away from home in the Premier League that has been the problem. The Champions League has been quite good for Newcastle. It's been a great distraction. They know that only another win will probably push them to at least a playoff spot. They've got other opportunities to do it if they don't do it tomorrow night. But yeah, let's see what Marseille holds for us ahead of the next leg of this trip, and hopefully Newcastle bring back 3 Champions League points. Lots of fans travelling from all over the place to get to this trip. It's not an easy one to do, but as I say, we're en route, and hopefully tonight we'll have plenty of good stuff from the press conference to bring you later on from the Velodrome.
Hi Eddie, nice to see you.
Okay.
How's the squad looking after the weekend? I would imagine buoyed by the result and the performance. How are you looking team news-wise in terms of fitness?
Yeah, we're good, as you say, boosted by the result against Manchester City. Team news-wise, yeah, we're pretty similar. We've obviously welcomed back Dan Burn from suspension. Anthony Gordon's travelled with us. Emil Kraft has travelled with us as well. Kieran Trippier hasn't, so that's pretty much, I think, the big news.
Obviously, Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall played very well on Saturday. Are they at a stage where they could go and start another game just 3-4 days later?
Well, that's the decision that I have to make, really. I have to consult the medical team, the sports science team, and try and come up with the right decisions regarding both of those players. I mean, they're so important for us, as you saw on Saturday, that their longer-term fitness is crucial for us, and especially with Kieran's injury, we're not quite sure how long he will be out. That leaves us short of options in the fullback position. So, yeah, decision for me to make overnight and into tomorrow to try and pick the best team to try and win this game, but also protect them.
Thanks, Keith. Jordan Crowley?
Yeah, such a great win on Saturday, Eddie. I mean, is it impossible not to make changes tomorrow, given that you've given the intensity of Saturday and also you've got Everton on a weekend as well?
Yeah, I think that I've said many, many times this season, I think that there's an element where trusting the squad is really important. We've got some very, very good players who will be desperate to play as well. And I do trust everybody, and I think we have the depth to play these games. I think by playing the same players in every game will not help us achieve our objective. So, but every game's different. The challenge is different. Certain players will suit certain games. So, as I said, that's the decisions I have to make, really.
Thank you. Lee Ryder?
Eddie, is a sort of feel that you want to get the job done early or as early as possible so that it gives you more options later in the competition where you could perhaps rest and rotate a little bit more?
Yeah, we just want to win the game. I don't know about looking too far ahead about in terms of qualification and rotating the team later in the competition. Of course, if we're able to do that, then great. But at the moment, we're still very much in the thick of the Champions League. It's still everything's an option for us. We've just got to try and win each game, and this will be a very, very difficult game in a testing environment for us. We're looking forward to the challenge that will bring us. The stadium's incredible, really great place to play football. I'm sure the atmosphere will be red hot. So again, all the things for me that are positive, but we need to help that make our performance stronger.
Thank you. Kieran?
Good afternoon. Obviously, you had the big home win the other day. Going back to the issues you've had on the road, as you mentioned with the atmosphere, does this feel a real litmus test? Have you changed anything with preparation for away games lately, given the issues you've had?
Well, the Champions League games are different to Premier League games, so I don't know if you can look at it that way for us. Yeah, we're always changing things and tweaking things, as we said before, Manchester City. We've travelled early. We're going to train on the stadium. Tomorrow will be, we'll look to prepare slightly differently, but to try and keep the players mentally engaged and ready for this game. But I think the most important decisions we have to make are how we play and how then the players implement that plan. That will always be the acid test in terms of our performances.
Okay. RMC?
Oui, bonjour, question en français, si possible. Bonjour Mister, je voulais vous poser une question sur Mason Greenwood, meilleur buteur du championnat de Ligue 1. Aujourd'hui, en conférence de presse avec Roberto De Zerbi, il a été question de lui et l'entraîneur italien expliquait que lui, il voyait une autre personne au quotidien de ce qui avait pu être décrit en Angleterre, évidemment, suite à l'affaire extrasportive. Je voulais savoir si en Angleterre, c'est un joueur qui reste et demeure très suivi, malgré ce qui s'est passé à titre personnel pour lui. Merci.
Come through.
Okay. About Mason Greenwood. Mason Greenwood's a different person from the Mason Greenwood that first arrived in Marseille. What do you think of that?
I think regarding Mason Greenwood, I think just talk the footballer, and that's the person that I've seen in the preparation for the game. Very, very good player. Not only a goal scorer, a goal creator, fluid in his positioning. We're certainly going to have to defend him very well. He's a man in form. So part of our plan will be trying to stop their attacking players, and he's certainly one of the very best they've got.
Okay. Next one.
Bonjour, coach. Notre question en français. Je voulais vous parler de Roberto De Zerbi, que vous avez croisé en Première Ligue, que vous connaissez bien. Je voulais savoir ce que vous pensiez de lui. Et ce matin, quand on l'a interrogé sur votre équipe, spontanément, il a cité Tonali, Joe Linton. Est-ce que vous pensez, vous aussi, que la clé du match de demain, ça sera le milieu de terrain?
Firstly, on Roberto, yeah, I mean, someone that I really admire. Having played against his teams at Brighton, as you say, I think a forward thinker, innovator. His team's always very, very well organised. And I think I know that we have to be really well organised against his style. So looking forward to that challenge that you always have against his teams. I think he's picked two very good players. I think the midfield battle will be key for us. We need to try and control space. We need to try and do well technically with the ball as we did against Manchester City. So the challenge is big for us. And those players will be key.
Thank you. Luke Edwards?
Bonjour. You've had good performances before this season. We've had one-off good performances. How important now is it for you to get that consistency to put a run together? Because that's really been the thing that's been lacking.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have played well in one-off games, both home and away. We are looking for that consistency in performance. We're looking at that feeling you have when you know you're going to perform. It's not in doubt, and we've had that for a long, long time. This is probably the first time since I've been here where there's that element where you're hoping we perform and we bring everything together. But from past experience this season, there's no guarantee. Now we need to build our confidence to deliver that. And these games, in part, will be that acid test for us. I mean, this will be a really tough game for us. We're looking forward to that off the back of Saturday. We feel we can rise to the challenge. And then we go back to the Premier League with Everton in another tough away game. So I think we can answer a lot of questions to ourselves, most importantly, in the next two games. And that's how we're trying to set it up.
Thank you. Gentleman on the front row.
Marseille has only 4 points. It's a difficult situation in the standings. Do you think it could change the way they approach the game, especially the first 10 or 15 minutes, maybe rush into attack? Is it something that you take into consideration?
I think with Roberto's style, I don't necessarily think that they will change or look to get the ball forward quicker than they normally do. I think they have their way, and their way is very effective. You see the goals they've scored this calendar year is hugely impressive. So, no, I think they will be themselves, but that doesn't mean that they won't potentially attack us early in the game. We need to make sure we're ready from minute one to be there psychologically, be there defensively. As I say, as we were against, for me, one of the best teams in world football against Manchester City, that was a great game for us to come through in such a positive way. But we need to use that game. It can't be in isolation. And we need to perform with the same mentality that we did.
Okay. Dominic?
Hi, Eddie. Was had to see a real physical effort from Nick Voltemade the past few games, starting week in, week out. On that note, and with Willisula, Johan Wissa unavailable, does Anthony Gordon as a striker become another potential option or even a necessity over the next few games?
Yeah, I think all options are available to us. It's great to have Anthony back with us. He has worked hard in the break. He's had a minor injury. I don't think it was a serious injury. It was a minor injury, but it was enough to keep him out. And especially with explosive players, you've got to be really careful with muscle injuries that doesn't become a longer-term problem. But he's done the work. I'd say he's fully fit. And, I have the ability to use him in different positions.
Craig Hope?
Hi, Eddie. Just to get on Mason Greenwood, it's the first time he's come up against an English club. We probably haven't seen a lot of him in recent years. Knowing the research and the work you do, you would have watched a lot of him in the past couple of weeks. What sort of player is there now? What are his strengths? What are his, how does he play? What is he now?
Well, he's a very good attacker from the wide right for Marseille. But they use him in a clever way. He can stay wide, and he'd be more of a combiner, I'd say, in that position with players around him. And then he does his most dangerous work when he drifts in field. But as I said, he's not just a goal scorer, he's a goal creator. He's got a really good relationship with players around him. He's got a lovely left foot. So, we're going to have to defend well down that side of the pitch. I'd say that's a big area for Marseille to attack.
So you've just seen Eddie Howe's full match press conference there, thanks to UEFA for sending that over. I'm joined by Lee Ryder, who was lucky enough to be in the room as Eddie Howe answered the questions from the press over in Marseille. Lee has travelled from Tyneside to be there and, of course, taking in the game tomorrow as well in the Champions League. First things first, Lee, how's your journey been?
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad. I got the Eurostar, so that left at about 6 a.m. this morning. There was quite a few fans on it, and then we had a bit of a change around in Paris to get the sort of domestic train from Paris, from a different stop in Paris, all the way into Marseille. So it was actually quite smooth. It might sound like a longer journey, but it was quite smooth and quite an enjoyable ride in.
And straight to the stadium. You've been there a few hours now, having a look around before you spoke to Eddie Howe. I mean, it's a marvelous stadium. It's one of those kind of world iconic arenas. What's it like being there in person?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, I think the first picture that I posted on the Chronicles X site before was that big stairway with the Marseille crest on it, and it just does feel like a place where it sleeps and breathes football. It's a bit like being in Newcastle. People walk around with the Marseille tops on, the tracksuits on, the scarves on, and it's obviously the match isn't until tomorrow, but there's a real feel for the place. And in this press room, it's just unbelievable. There's like team shots all around. I will have to get a video of that before I do go, but there's team shots all around. It's got people like Chris Waddle, Cantona, Basil Bolli, Abide Pele, all the top names who've played for Marseille, and yeah, it's just like a Hall of Fame in here, and you get a bit of a tingle as you're walking around the place.
And the lads have been training on the pitch this evening. We've seen a few videos of that as well. I mean, you can't really learn too much, I guess, from watching them train. It's more about them probably getting a feel for the stadium that they're going to play in tomorrow. But did anything catch your eye in particular?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a decent squad over here, and I think the morale of the group was the big thing that sort of, stood out for me. I think, going from that game against Brentford when all the heads were down and they were all sort of trailing off the pitch at the G-Tech Community Stadium, to then beating Manchester City and then coming here, it's almost like the weight has been lifted off the shoulders of the players, and they're going to this game with a lot of confidence. And if they can't get 3 points here, it will be a night to remember. I'm pretty certain of that.
Yes, indeed. And I guess that's maybe one of the key takeaways from Eddie Howe's press conference was the update on the likes of Anthony Gordon and Kieran Trippier.
Yeah, I mean, Trippier not being here, and we got told on Saturday that it was only a minor hamstring injury. Now we don't know how long he's going to be out for, so that's got to be a concern. I'd imagine he may have had a scan back home, but he's been left behind, so he can't come into the team tomorrow night. Dan Burn comes back from suspension, but the fact that Anthony Gordon is back with the team again, I think that's a big plus for me. Emil Kraft back in the squad as well, and Eddie Howe in his press conference telling us how he has to weigh up whether to play Livramento and Hall again just a few days after that Man City game. Burnout and fresh injury, that's got to be a concern for Eddie Howe. And this game, while it is important, you could argue that Saturday against Everton is bigger because, Newcastle can recover from a defeat in the Champions League. They've got points in the bag, but they do not want to be in that bottom half of the table for much longer in the Premier League. So Everton and getting that first away win domestically in the Premier League is hugely important.
Yeah, we discussed that in the match preview with John Gibson, and the issue with Lewis Hall and whether he would be fit enough to kind of start on Wednesday. But Eddie Howe said then in his press conference that he's trusting the squad is very important. We have some very good players who are desperate to play. Do you take that as a little bit of a hint that there may be some changes coming from that team that deservedly beat City on Saturday?
Yeah, I think he is going to make a couple of tweaks. I mean, you asked me there, what do you learn from that 15 minutes of open training? Well, you're basically getting led up the garden path almost because, they're going to throw a few things in there to put people off the scent. But I do get the impression that Eddie is going to make a couple of big changes to the team tomorrow night. And it's going to be interesting when that team sheet eventually drops. It certainly won't be the same 11 as Man City. And I think really this game, as I say, he's got to get his priorities right. He needs to get this performance right. The result will take care of itself if he does that. But, you cannot stray too far about having the strongest team available for that Everton game. I did ask him, was he looking at getting this boxed off early and get this last 16 place booked? So then, you're going in that Leverkusen game where it's before the derby and you could really rest a few. You could leave a few players behind, rest some players, give younger players an opportunity, and then be fresh for that time away derby, which we know is massively important, probably more important than Leverkusen, despite it being a Champions League game, because local pride is absolutely everything for the fans. So, yeah, a lot of rotation and tweaking to come, I think, before we get to that game.
It's interesting as well, because the other thing he mentioned was the midfield battle, and he said it would be key for us. We need to do well technically with the ball, which is quite interesting because I'd say many people, no disrespect to Joe Linton, wouldn't describe him as great technically on the ball. We saw against Man City that he's there for that kind of physical presence, and he does that very well. And on the bench, they've got Joe Willock, they've got Jacob Ramsey, they've got Lewis Miley as well. Is that another suggestion that maybe we could see a change to what was a brilliant midfield against Man City?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, just seeing Jacob Ramsey looking quite decent in training there. So he's certainly an option. Lewis Miley could be looked at potentially to bring some energy in there, and potentially, Bruno and Sandro being switched around, which is something that happened in reverse last season. And on Saturday we went back the other way, and then he was kind of playing games a little bit in the press conference with a suggestion that we could see another tweak with those two. So yeah, certainly he did make that point. He said the game, could be won or lost in midfield. So that's certainly going to be an area to watch tomorrow night.
And obviously, I say we've just played there the full press conference, but you've got the insight of what it was like actually in the room. Was Eddie as relaxed and as calm as he came across?
Yeah, I mean, in recent weeks it has been intense in press conferences. Eddie Howe, has been an unbelievable manager for Newcastle United, 100 wins on the board, but he's quite rightly found himself, getting questioned after those games at West Ham and Brentford because, they were below par. And when you've spent that amount of money, you would expect to see Newcastle doing a little bit more than they did in those two games. So everyone wants to see Eddie Howe do well. Everyone wants to see him do what he did last season and win a trophy again, hopefully. But I think doing well in the Champions League, having that solid Premier League season again, and hopefully getting derby points on the board as well, could all be part of the package this season.
So we're going to sign off, Lee, by asking you the question rather that nearly every journalist hates answering, and that's for a score prediction.
Well, I think it's going to be an enticing game, and I'm not going to sit on the fence. I think it'll be very difficult, but I think Newcastle are in the mood to win it. They're in the mood to record a big victory. I've seen some big away wins down the years in Europe with Newcastle. You go back to the Feyenoord night, you go back to the Palermo game with Tim Krul. Hopefully it can be a night like that. I mean, we've already seen a couple this season, haven't we, in the Champions League away from home. So hopefully we get something like that, and Newcastle are sitting pretty at the top of that Champions League bumper group stage by tomorrow night.
Fingers crossed. Huge thanks to Lee for joining us from the press room at the Velodrome in Marseille. Thanks to you guys for watching and listening. Do it, subscribe, hit thumbs up on the YouTube channel, leave us a rating and review on the audio-only platform, and remember to hit that link in the podcast description box to get a discount offer on your NordVPN plan. And Lee will be bringing you plenty of content across online, in print, and on video as well throughout the next 24 hours as Newcastle United prepare and then do indeed take on Marseille in the Champions League.